we have to be honest and ask the question, will arming teachers make schools safer? And I think
I don't
that's
think so.
ultimately what it boils down to if we have to look at practically. I mean, in one sense, perhaps. But in the other sense, definitely not. So that's the problem, is that if you look at both sides, yes, it could make things safer, but it probably won't. And you're only adding another job for teachers to have to do. We already do enough as it is. We shouldn't have to be police officers as well.
That's what they said in the article.
Which is also why it's stupid that, so many places have laid off all their security staff over the last
Very
year.
true.
It's just you're only making it worse, and you're adding more of a job for teachers to do. And I guess my point is that we can't neglect the positive. That could it work? Sure. But there are so many overwhelming negatives here that we have to keep in mind and know that it is not a solution. Education's fantastic with stopgap measures. Just doing things with the band-aids, as we said so many times. And I think in the end, we have to be honest and say that arming teachers is more of a band-aid than a solution. Even if you agree with the idea, is that sustainable? And I don't think that it is, because we need to address the root cause of what's creating the situation where there are school shootings, and we're not addressing them. And no, this is probably the only semi-partisan thing I'll say, because it has to in order for this to make sense, that just adding more background checks or adding more barriers to getting a firearm won't work. I'm not saying that there needs to be no regulation. Okay, so that's the only partly partisan thing I'll talk about. But look at California here. We have some of the absolute most ludicrously strict gun laws in the country, and we still have school shootings all the time. We still have,
in fact,
plenty of shootings all the time.
Yeah. Now, the state of California has more gun violence than the state of New York. And New York has strict gun laws too, but not like California.
And even
New York has shootings like crazy too. So you got to think, what I'm saying is that these two states that have these really strict gun laws are very high up on the list with shootings that happen in the state. And New York's a little less than California, but it's still high.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And even if you
see,
even if somehow, all the people who are anti-Second Amendment and want to take away all the guns, look at around the world, places that have already done that. Look at Australia, for instance. They haven't had gun ownership in a very long time. And I think it was just like 3-4 weeks ago, something like that, they had a stabbing spree where a bunch of people were stabbed to death. And I'm like, when there's a will, criminals will find a way. But when it comes to students, when you have a kid bringing a gun on a campus, which actually just happened in LA like 3 or 4 days ago, at the time of this recording anyway, and that's what we need to be addressing. Why are kids needing to feel that they need to bring a gun? Whether they want to be school shooters or not, if they're just bringing it for their own protection, again, why are they doing that? Why don't they feel safe? Are they being bullied? Do they think that someone else is going to bring a gun? Which is why you want to arm teachers too. So it's a matter of, we need to address the root causes, not make gun ownership harder to obtain, because they're going to find a way no matter what. Okay, you just stop. It's like, if you, again, banning all drugs. Our kids are high on campus all the time. You and I both ran into that all the time.
All the time.
So, yes, it's gun-free and drug-free zones, but schools have both. We need to realize, how can we fight that? How can we, educate people about that?
Right. There's the word, Kevin. I was waiting for that one, man, because that's the whole key. It's about educating the students and not being afraid to educate the students. And sometimes tell them the kinds of things that are uncomfortable for them to hear and uncomfortable for them to process, but they're necessary for them to learn.